the smell of cheap alcohol mixed with the metallic taste of recycled air inside the cantina. Frontier Station Delta orbited a dead moon, far from anywhere important. Soldiers from a dozen different species crowded around tables, celebrating their recent victory against a pirate gang. Laughter echoed off the steel walls while holographic screens showed sports from various home worlds. Commander Braxis slammed his third drink on the table with one of his four massive arms. The Thurian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his green scales catching the amber light. Medals decorated his blue uniform, each one representing a battle won, an enemy defeated. His unit had just cleared out a smuggler base without losing a single soldier. Another perfect operation, Braxis announced to his companions. Lieutenant Shala clicked her mandibles in agreement. The Voran's compound eyes reflected the dim lights as she cleaned her service weapon with careful precision. Beside her, Sergeant Drawl laughed, his bear-like frame shaking the entire bench. The pirates ran like scared younglings, Drawl rumbled. Barely put up a fight. Other aliens joined their table. A thin, gray-skinned navigator, 2 muscular security officers with armored plates along their spines. They all shared stories of their species' military prowess. The Thurians evolved as apex predators. The Vorans had perfect tactical minds. The Keshans possessed strength that could bend steel. The door slid open with a soft hiss. A human walked in. Braxis noticed him immediately. The human moved quietly, his steps careful and measured. He wore a worn gray jacket over civilian clothes. No armor, no visible weapons, just a jacket with a patch on the shoulder, a black shield with a single red stripe. Burns scarred the left side of his face, and his left arm bore the telltale gleam of cybernetic replacement. The human approached the bar without looking at anyone. His voice barely carried over the noise. "Water, please." Drawl elbowed Braxis. "Look at that, a human probably lost." Shala tilted her head, studying the newcomer with her insectoid precision. They are new to the galactic stage, only 200 cycles since first contact. 200 cycles and they think they can play soldier, Braxis said loud enough for several tables to hear. A few aliens chuckled. I heard they need machines just to breathe on most worlds. Fragile things, added another alien, a spindly creature with too many joints. Their gravity is so weak they break bones from simple falls. The human collected his water and moved to an empty table in the corner. He sat with his back to the wall, a habit every soldier learned regardless of species. But he said nothing, did nothing except take slow sips from his glass. Braxis found the silence irritating. He thrived on reaction, on the acknowledgement of his superiority. "You know what I heard?" he called out to his table, but his voice projected across the cantina. "Humans have no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armored skin. They are born defenseless." "How did such a species even survive on their world?" Shala asked, genuinely curious. "Probably hid in caves," Drawl suggested. "Let the real predators fight while they cowered." More laughter. The human remained still, his eyes fixed on his glass. "They live maybe 80 cycles if they are lucky," Braxis continued. He stood up, warming to his audience. "Most species live 3-4 times that long. By the time a human learns to be useful, they are already dying of old age." A younger alien, fresh from academy training, spoke up. "But they are part of the Galactic Defense Coalition now. They must have some value." "Politics," Braxis waved dismissively with 2 of his arms. "The Council wanted their planet's resources. Easier to give them a seat than take it by force. But in actual combat," he made a dismissive gesture, "I would take 1 Thurian warrior over 10 human soldiers." 100 humans, Drawl corrected, grinning. The human finished his water. He set the glass down carefully, precisely. Still no reaction to the insults flying across the room. Braxis felt his pride wounded by the lack of response. He strode across the cantina, his heavy footsteps announcing his approach. The human looked up slowly as the massive Thurian commander loomed over his table. "You understand our language, human?" Braxis demanded. "Yes," the human replied quietly. "Then you heard what we said. Do you have no pride, no honor to defend?" The human's eyes met Braxis's gaze. They were brown, unremarkable, but something in them made Braxis's instincts whisper warnings. These were not the eyes of prey. "I am off duty," the human said. "Just wanted a quiet drink." "A quiet drink," Braxis mocked. "While soldiers discuss real warfare. Tell me, human, have you even seen combat? Or do your people send machines to fight for them?" The human paused. For a long moment the only sound was the background noise of the cantina, the hum of life support, the distant echo of music. "I have seen combat," the human finally answered. "Chasing pirates, escorting merchant ships." Braxis leaned down, using his height for intimidation. "Real warriors face armies. We fight battles that decide the fate of systems." "So have I." The simple statement made Braxis pause. Something in the human's tone carried weight, like a stone dropped in still water. An older voice cut through the tension. "Braxis, perhaps you should return to your table." General Torvak stood near the bar. The retired Kalish officer commanded respect across species lines. His gray skin bore scars from conflicts most present had only read about in history files. He looked at the human's shoulder patch with an expression Braxis could not quite identify. Recognition, maybe. Or was it concern? "General," Braxis acknowledged respectfully, "I meant no disrespect, simply educating this human about military realities." "What do you know of human military realities?" Torvak asked quietly. "What is there to know? They are weak, short-lived, recently spacefaring, they." "You have never fought beside humans," Torvak interrupted. "Never fought against them either, I would wager." Braxis's scales rippled with irritation. "I have fought in 3 major campaigns, General, all victories. I know what makes a warrior." "Then you should recognize one when you see one." Torvak gestured to the human's patch. "Do you know what that symbol means?" Braxis looked at the black shield with its red stripe. "Some unit designation." The human spoke again, his voice still quiet but clearer now. "If you want to understand humans, Commander, I can tell you a story about a place called Haven's Gate." Several older aliens in the cantina went silent. The name clearly meant something to them, something heavy and dark. Even Shala's mandibles stopped moving. Torvak closed his eyes briefly, as if hearing the name caused pain. "What is Haven's Gate?" the young alien asked. The human gestured to an empty chair. "Sit down, Commander, all of you. This might take a while." Braxis lowered himself into a chair, his 4 arms crossed in a display of skepticism. Draal and Shala joined him, along with several other curious aliens who had been listening. The young academy graduate pulled up a stool, eager to learn. Even the bartender, a 6-limbed creature whose species Braxis did not recognize, leaned forward to listen. The human remained seated, his scarred hands flat on the table. Haven's Gate was a research colony, 50,000 civilians, scientists, engineers, families, children. He paused. It sat on the edge of explored space, studying potential colony worlds. "A soft target," Shala observed, her tactical mind already working. "Isolated, minimal defense force." "Exactly what the pirates thought," the human agreed. 300 ships dropped out of slip space above the colony, led by a warlord named Krask. You might know the name. Torvak nodded grimly. "The scourge of the Outer Rim. He disappeared 6 years ago." "Not disappeared," the human corrected softly. "Eliminated, but we will get to that." Braxis shifted impatiently. 300 ships against a research colony. There is no story there, just slaughter. "There should have been," the human admitted. "Krask gave the colony 1 hour to surrender all data and resources. If they refused, every living thing on that world would be killed. He broadcasted footage of what he had done to other colonies that resisted. The message was clear. The cantina had grown quiet now. Other conversations died as more aliens turned to listen. The colony commander contacted the nearest military fleet, the human continued. 6 days away, even at maximum speed. No possibility of reinforcement, no possibility of escape either. The colony's evacuation ships were civilian models, slow, unarmed. The pirates would hunt them down like wounded animals. Standard siege doctrine, Shala said. Force the defenders to choose between immediate death or slow death. Most choose to negotiate. Most species would, the human agreed. The colony commander ordered evacuation anyway. 40,000 civilians could fit in the ships. The rest would have to hide in the underground research facilities and hope for rescue. A coward's choice, Braxis declared. Abandon the weak to save the many. The human's eyes flicked to Braxis. The commander put himself on the list to stay behind. Does that sound like a coward to you? Braxis said nothing. The problem was time, the human went on. The evacuation needed 6 hours minimum. Loading that many people, making sure the ships could reach safe slipspace distance. The pirates were already landing. They would overrun the spaceport in under an hour. Impossible situation, Drawl muttered. No way to win. You are right, the human said. No way to win, but humans do not think in terms of winning sometimes. Sometimes we just think about what needs to be done. He took a breath, and for the first time emotion crept into his voice. Not anger or pride, something deeper, heavier. 200 human soldiers were stationed at Haven's gate. Garrison duty mostly. Guard the gates, walk patrols, train for emergencies that were never supposed to happen. Young soldiers, most of them. First posting for a lot of them. They had families back on Earth, lives they were building, futures they were planning. The human stopped. His cybernetic hand curled into a fist on the table. The garrison commander called for volunteers. 40 soldiers to hold the spaceport. Another 40 to protect the shield generators. The rest to evacuate with the civilians and live to fight another day. Every single soldier volunteered. All 200. Foolish, Braxis said, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Wasting lives achieves nothing. They were not wasted, Torvek said quietly. The old general had taken a seat nearby, his expression distant. I saw the after-action reports, classified, but I was military intelligence then. The human glanced at Torvak, recognition passing between them. Then you know what happened. I know the outcome, Torvak replied. Not the details. That information was restricted, too disturbing for most species to process. Interest sharpened around the table. Even Braxis leaned forward despite himself. The garrison commander divided the volunteers, the human explained. 40 soldiers would fortify the spaceport, turn it into a kill zone. They had 6 hours of ammunition maybe, against thousands of pirates. They were told to hold for at least 3 hours. After that, they could retreat to the evacuation ships if possible. If possible, Shala repeated, meaning it was not expected. It was not, the human confirmed. The other 40 would protect the shield generators in the underground facilities. If those failed, the pirates could bombard the spaceport from orbit. Game over. The remaining soldiers would help organize the evacuation and provide security. And you were one of the 40 at the spaceport, Braxis guessed. The human shook his head. I was a sergeant then. Special operations. My team of 8 was assigned to asymmetric warfare. We were supposed to cause chaos behind enemy lines, make the pirates think the defense was larger than it was. By minutes that might become hours. 8 soldiers, Drawl said incredulously, against an army. Human special operations are trained differently than most species, the human said. We do not rely on strength or natural weapons. We rely on adaptability, psychology, understanding that the enemy wants to live just as much as we do and exploiting that fear. Fear, Braxis scoffed. What would pirates fear from 8 humans? The human's scarred face showed the ghost of a smile, but it held no humor. Everything by the time we were done, but that came later. First, we had to survive the initial assault. He looked around the table, meeting each alien's eyes in turn. The pirates landed in waves. Shock troops first, heavily armed, expecting minimal resistance. They thought they would walk through the spaceport and start loading loot within the hour. What did they find instead? The young alien asked. Hell, the human answered simply. They found 40 humans who decided that if they were going to die, they would make it count. And they found 8 humans who decided to teach the pirates what fear really means. The cantina held its breath. Tell us, Torvek said softly. Tell us what happened at Haven's Gate. The human nodded slowly. The first wave hit the spaceport 30 minutes after the ultimatum. 200 pirates, mixed species, well armed. They expected security forces to scatter. Instead, the human's voice grew distant, as if he were no longer sitting in the cantina, but standing on that spaceport years ago. Instead, they walked into a trap. The humans had spent 30 minutes turning the spaceport into a nightmare. Every entry point had overlapping fields of fire. Cargo containers formed artificial corridors that funneled attackers into kill zones. The fuel depot had been rigged with remote detonators. Basic defensive tactics, Shala observed. Effective but against superior numbers, eventually overwhelmed. You are right, the human agreed. Which is why the humans did not just defend, they attacked. As soon as the first wave entered the spaceport, the fuel depot exploded. 40 pirates died instantly. The survivors scattered, seeking cover exactly as expected. Braxis frowned. Sacrificing fuel reserves, that leaves defenders with no fallback resources. There was no fallback, the human said flatly. That was the point. The humans were not trying to hold the spaceport indefinitely. They were buying time, nothing more. Every resource was expendable except time. He continued, his words painting images in the minds of his listeners. While the pirates scrambled for cover, human snipers opened fire from elevated positions. Not random shooting, targeted, officers first, communications operators, anyone who looked like they were coordinating a response. The pirate force lost command structure in the first 2 minutes. Professional work, Torvek commented. But snipers reveal their positions when they fire. Counterattack would be immediate. It was, the human confirmed. The pirates had good instincts. They identified 3 sniper positions and concentrated fire, destroyed 2 positions completely, forced the third to relocate. 3 snipers lost, Drawl said. 37 soldiers remaining. No, the human shook his head. 0 snipers lost. There were no snipers, just automated weapons rigs firing on remote control. The humans were never in those positions. Silence fell over the table. Shala's mandibles clicked rapidly, her version of surprise. Deception. Make the enemy waste ammunition and reveal their capabilities. Exactly. While the pirates were busy destroying empty positions, the actual human soldiers circled behind them. Close quarters combat. Humans are smaller than most species, weaker in direct strength. But in tight corridors with surprise and determination, size becomes a disadvantage. The human held up his cybernetic hand, flexing the mechanical fingers. A human can fit through spaces larger species cannot, can hide in maintenance shafts, ventilation systems, behind equipment. The pirates were hunting for enemies in obvious positions. They did not think to check underneath them, above them, inside the very walls. How many did they kill in that first engagement? Braxis asked despite himself, drawn into the tactical discussion. 68 pirates dead, 93 wounded badly enough to withdraw from combat, and the humans lost 4 soldiers, 1 killed, 3 injured but still fighting. The numbers made even Braxis pause. That is, impressive efficiency. It was brutal, the human corrected. Not impressive, brutal. The humans knew they could not win through conventional combat, so they abandoned convention. They used industrial equipment as weapons, magnetic cranes to crush, pressurized cargo loading systems as improvised cannons. One soldier rewired a cargo hauler's engine to explode on remote command, then lured 20 pirates into blast radius. He paused, swallowing hard. His name was Rick. I knew him from basic training. He liked bad jokes and collected old Earth music. He was 23 years old. The cantina remained quiet. The weight of a name, a person, made the story suddenly more real. The second wave learned from the first, the human went on. They came in cautious, checking corners, watching for traps, smart tactics, but humans adapt faster than most species expect. What worked once will not work twice, so the defenders changed strategy. To what? The young alien asked. Psychological warfare. The pirates found bodies of their fallen comrades arranged in specific patterns, messages written in their own blood, warnings in multiple languages, equipment sabotaged in ways that would not kill immediately but would fail at critical moments. Humans can be creative when survival depends on it. Shala tilted her head, analyzing. Terror tactics, making the enemy afraid to advance, to trust their equipment, to believe anything they see. It worked, the human said. The second wave's advance slowed. They started shooting at shadows, wasting ammunition, making mistakes. And while they were distracted, my team went to work in their rear areas. 8 soldiers against how many? Drawl asked. By then, maybe 400 pirates had landed, most concentrated on the spaceport assault, but they had support units, supply lines, communications, command posts. Those were undefended because who would be stupid enough to attack behind enemy lines when outnumbered 50-1? The human's damaged smile returned. Humans would. We hit their field hospital first. Not to kill the wounded, we are not animals, but we destroyed their medical supplies. Every pirate who got injured would know there was no treatment available, make soldiers cautious, afraid. Then we destroyed their ammunition depot. Just the detonators, not the ammunition itself. But the pirates did not know what was destroyed. For all they knew, they were fighting with limited supplies. Panic spreads quickly in those situations. Braxis found himself absorbed in the tactical narrative despite his earlier dismissal, forcing the enemy to fight defensively while simultaneously defending against them, dividing their focus. And their forces, the human added. They had to pull soldiers back to guard their logistics, fewer attackers at the spaceport. Every minute they delayed was another 100 civilians boarding evacuation ships. By hour 2, the pirates realized they were not fighting a desperate last stand. They were fighting an organized resistance. Krask would not tolerate that, Torvik said grimly. He was known for overwhelming force when facing resistance. The human nodded. Hour 3, he committed everything. 2,000 pirates, all remaining forces, simultaneous assault on all positions. The shield generators, the spaceport, and hunting for my team. No more caution, just overwhelming numbers. His voice dropped lower. That was when things got bad. The human stared at his hands, both the scarred flesh and the mechanical replacement. Around him, the aliens waited. Even the background noise of the cantina seemed muted, as if the station itself listened. 2,000 pirates against 40 soldiers at the spaceport, he continued. Another 1,000 attacking the shield generators. Our communications went dark. We had no idea if the generators still held, if the evacuation was proceeding, if any friendly forces remained alive. Just us, 8 soldiers, trapped behind enemy lines with the entire pirate army hunting us. What did you do? The young alien asked quietly. We adapted, again. We could not fight that many enemies directly, so we became ghosts. The spaceport was a maze of cargo tunnels, maintenance shafts, old mining equipment from when the colony was first established. We knew that terrain. The pirates did not. We led them on hunts through corridors we had pre-rigged with traps. The human closed his eyes, remembering. But even ghosts get tired. We had been fighting for 3 hours straight. No sleep, limited water, injuries piling up. My team's medic had taken shrapnel from an explosion. She kept fighting, kept treating the rest of us, but I could see her slowing down. Her name was Lisa. She wanted to be a doctor after her service ended, had already been accepted to medical school. He opened his eyes again, and they were harder now. Hour 4, we made a mistake. We led a patrol into what we thought was a dead end we had trapped. But the pirates had brought scanning equipment, detected our trap, disarmed it. When we triggered what should have been an explosion, nothing happened. Instead, they had set up an ambush for us. They learned, Shala observed, adapted to your tactics. They did cost us 1 soldier, killed instantly, another critically wounded. Lisa tried to save him, but even she could not fix what happened. He knew it too, told us to leave him, keep moving. His name was Daniel, 26 years old, had a wife pregnant with their first child back on Earth. The cantina seemed to grow colder. Braxis noticed his earlier arrogance had completely vanished, replaced by something he rarely felt: respect for an enemy's sacrifice. Daniel gave us something before we left him, the human said. His remaining explosives and a detonator. He was not going to let them take him alive. He was going to make them pay for every step they took past his position. We heard the explosion 10 minutes later. 15 pirates died with him. 6 soldiers left, Drawl calculated, his voice subdued. 6 soldiers and 3 hours still needed for evacuation. The situation at the spaceport was worse. We had no way of knowing, but they had been reduced to 19 soldiers, less than half their starting force. The pirates had pushed them back to the final defensive line, right at the evacuation ship boarding ramps. The human's jaw tightened. If the spaceport fell, the evacuation ships would be sitting targets. 40,000 civilians, mostly children and elderly, who boarded first, defenseless. The shield generators, Torvik asked. Still holding. We learned later those 40 soldiers never lost a single generator. They turned those underground facilities into a fortress. Pirates literally had to dig them out meter by meter. But that took time, resources, and pirate lives. By hour 5, Krask was furious. He executed his own officers for failing to break through. Shala clicked thoughtfully. A commander who kills his own officers creates fear, but also desperation. Soldiers stop thinking tactically, start taking unnecessary risks. That was what we counted on, the human agreed. My team decided to stop running. We went on offense one last time. 6 soldiers against an army. We hit their command ship. Braxis's 4 eyes widened. Impossible. A flagship would have hundreds of guards. It did, but most were deployed to the surface battle. Krask kept maybe 50 on board for security. He was arrogant, thought himself untouchable in orbit. We used that. The human leaned forward, animated now despite his fatigue. We captured a small shuttle the pirates had left minimally guarded, flew up to the flagship using their own identification codes, landed in their hangar pretending to be a resupply run. By the time they realized we were humans, we were already inside. 6 soldiers clearing a warship, Drawl said, disbelief in his voice. We did not try to capture the ship. We had one goal: reach the command center and disable their orbital targeting systems. If they could not accurately target the spaceport from orbit, they could not risk bombarding it. Might hit their own forces. The human touched his scarred face unconsciously. This is where I got these. We had to fight through tight corridors, room by room. Pirates had the advantage of numbers and home territory, but humans have something most species lack. When we know we are probably going to die anyway, we stop being cautious. Fear becomes clarity. Every movement counts. Every shot matters. We lost 2 more soldiers getting to the command center. That left 4 of us. Lisa, myself, and 2 others. Rick and a soldier named Paul. We breached the command center, killed the crew, and started destroying targeting computers. He paused and pain crossed his features. Krask was there. He was huge even for his species, armor plating and cybernetic enhancements. He killed Paul with his bare hands before we could react, just crushed his skull. Then he turned on Rick. The human's voice became very quiet. Rick tackled him, gave Lisa and me time to finish destroying the systems. I heard bones breaking. Rick's bones, but he held on long enough. When Krask threw him off, Rick was already dying. He looked at us and smiled, said the evacuation would make it now. Then he was gone. Silence, complete silence. Even the bartender had stopped cleaning glasses. 3 of us left, the human continued, his voice mechanical now, emotionless. Lisa, myself, and Krask. He came at us like a monster. We had no heavy weapons, just rifles that barely scratched his armor. Lisa was wounded, bleeding from a dozen places, but still fighting. The ship's self-destruct, Torvik said softly. You activated it. The human nodded. Lisa did. While I kept Krask busy, she accessed the ship systems and started the countdown. 5 minutes. We had 5 minutes to get off the ship. The human's cybernetic hand gripped the edge of the table, metal fingers leaving small dents in the surface. No one commented on the damage. They were too absorbed in the story, in the weight of what they were hearing. Krask realized what Lisa had done. He abandoned trying to kill us and ran for his personal escape pod. Smart tactically. Save himself, rebuild his forces. Lisa and I ran for the shuttle we had stolen. We had maybe 3 minutes left. He took a breath, steadying himself. The corridors were chaos. Pirate crew members running everywhere trying to evacuate. Some tried to stop us. We fought through them. Lisa was barely standing, leaning on me, but she kept her weapon up, kept firing. We made it to the hangar with 90 seconds remaining. The shuttle was gone. Some pirate had taken it, fled already. Every other ship was either launching or already gone. Just empty hangar and the countdown reaching 1 minute. Braxis found himself leaning forward despite himself. How did you escape? We did not both of us. The human's voice cracked slightly. There was 1 vessel left, a small cargo pod, basically a coffin with an engine, 1-person capacity. Maybe. Lisa shoved me toward it, told me to go. I refused. We argued for 15 seconds we did not have. His eyes were distant, seeing something the aliens could not. She hit me. Actually hit me, knocked me down. Then she picked me up. She was stronger than she looked and threw me into the pod, sealed the door before I could stop her. I could see her through the window, see her bleeding, see her exhausted. She smiled at me, actually smiled. Then she activated the pod's emergency launch. The cantina had become a tomb, silent and heavy with grief. I watched through the pod's rear camera as the flagship exploded. Lisa was still visible in the hangar when it happened. She had sat down, back against a wall, looking peaceful. The explosion took less than a second. She did not suffer. Several aliens looked away. Even Shala's usual cold, tactical analysis had softened into something approaching sorrow. The explosion destroyed Krask's flagship and damaged 3 nearby pirate vessels, the human continued mechanically. Without their targeting systems, without their commander, the pirate force lost coordination. The ground assault faltered, became disorganized. But still 2,000 pirates against how many defenders? Drawl asked. By hour 6, 11 human soldiers remained at the spaceport. The shield generators had lost 16 soldiers but still held their positions, and my cargo pod, damaged by the flagship explosion, fell toward the planet. I managed to guide it to crash near the spaceport, broke 17 bones on impact. My left arm was destroyed, crushed beyond repair. He gestured at his cybernetic replacement. They removed what was left and gave me this later, but in that moment, lying in the wreckage, I could hear the battle. The pirates were making their final push. The evacuation ships were launching, one after another, climbing toward orbit. The defenders were down to their last ammunition magazines. I crawled out of the pod, found a weapon from a dead pirate, dragged myself toward the spaceport. I could barely walk, could barely see from the head trauma, but I could still fight. Had to fight. My team had died buying time for those ships. I was not going to waste their sacrifice. Torvak spoke softly. The report said the final defense was extraordinary. We could not believe the numbers. 11 soldiers holding against hundreds, the human confirmed. They had run out of ammunition, were fighting with improvised weapons, with tools, with bare hands when nothing else remained. They were not trying to win anymore, just trying to last 5 more minutes, then 5 more, then 5 more. I reached the defensive line. The soldier in command, a lieutenant, looked at me like I was a ghost. I probably was, covered in blood, half my body broken, but I could hold a weapon. That was enough. We held together. His voice grew stronger, harder. The pirates thought they had won, thought they just needed one more push to break through and claim their prize, but humans do not break easy. We bend, we adapt, we endure, and when we have nothing left to lose, we become something else entirely. The last evacuation ship launched, 40,000 civilians safe. The mission was complete. The lieutenant told the remaining soldiers they could surrender, that they had done enough. Every single one refused. They would hold until relieved or until they fell. Those were the only 2 options. Braxis's voice was rough. How many survived? The relief fleet arrived 8 minutes after the last evacuation ship reached safe distance. 8 minutes. In that time, 3 more soldiers died. I watched them fall, watched them die buying those final minutes. When the fleet's fighters swept in and destroyed the pirate forces, 8 human soldiers remained standing. 8 out of 200. The number hung in the air like an accusation. The colony was saved. The evacuation ships reached a nearby station safely. 39,847 civilians. Every child survived. Every single one. That was what mattered. That was what 200 soldiers bought with their lives. Shala spoke carefully. The pirate fleet, you said Krask was eliminated, not just defeated. The human fleet did not just rescue us, the human said, his voice cold now. They hunted. Every ship that fled from Haven's Gate was tracked. Every pirate who participated in that attack was found. It took 3 months. The fleet followed them across 6 systems, into pirate havens, into neutral space. Did not matter. The humans found them all. None escaped, Torvak confirmed quietly. 300 ships, all destroyed, no survivors taken. We protect our own, the human said simply. And if you threaten our civilians, our children, there is no place in the galaxy you can hide, no distance far enough, no forgiveness possible. That is what Haven's Gate taught the galaxy about humans. He looked at Braxis directly. You asked what makes humans different. That is your answer. We are not stronger, not tougher, not better warriors, but we will die for each other without hesitation, and we will avenge each other without mercy. The story ended. The human sat back in his chair, looking suddenly exhausted, as if telling the tale had drained something vital from him. Around the cantina, aliens processed what they had heard. The silence stretched, profound and uncomfortable. Finally, the young alien spoke. Did they give you medals, honor you as heroes? The human's laugh was bitter. They tried. I refused them all, every medal, every commendation, sent them to the families of the soldiers who died. They were the heroes. I am just the one who survived. There is no honor in that, just guilt. Survivor's guilt, Torvak said with understanding. I know it well, the weight of living when better people died. Every morning I wake up using time that Rick bought with his life, that Lisa paid for with hers, that 192 soldiers earned with their blood. How do you accept medals for that? How do you let people call you a hero when you failed to save anyone? Braxis found himself speaking, his earlier arrogance completely gone. You saved 40,000 civilians. Almost 40,000 people alive because of what you and your unit did. Because of what they did, the human corrected firmly. I was just there. They made the choices that mattered, Daniel staying behind, Rick tackling Krask, Lisa throwing me into that escape pod, every soldier who held that line when they could have run. That was courage, that was heroism. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing the extensive burn scars and the junction where flesh met machine. This is what is left of Haven's Gate. Scars and metal and memories of people who deserve to live more than I did. Shala clicked her mandibles softly. You left military service after this. Could not do it anymore. Could not lead soldiers knowing I might have to order them to die. Could not make those choices again. So I work as a contractor now. Train soldiers, share what I learned. Pass on the tactics my team developed. Make sure their deaths taught something useful. The human stood slowly, his movements careful. You wanted to know what makes humans different, Commander Braxis. Now you know. We are fragile. We are short-lived. We have no natural weapons, no armored skin, no venom. By every measure, we should be prey. He looked around the cantina, meeting the eyes of every alien present. But we have something else. We have each other. A human alone is weak. But humans together become something more. We fight for each other, die for each other, and heaven help anyone who threatens our own. Braxis stood as well, his 4 arms coming together in the Thurian gesture of deepest respect. I apologize for my words earlier. I spoke from ignorance. I judged without understanding. The other aliens rose too. Dral Shala, the young academy graduate, the bartender, old General Torvak. One by one they stood in their species' versions of respect. Some saluted, some bowed, some simply acknowledged with silence. The human nodded acceptance. No apology needed. Most species do not understand humans. We are new to the galaxy and our methods seem strange, wasteful even. Why sacrifice one life to save another when you could preserve your forces, retreat, rebuild? Because you value the individual as much as the collective, Torvak said. Most species calculate acceptable losses. Humans refuse to accept that any loss is acceptable. Makes us inefficient by military standards, the human agreed. A Thurian commander would sacrifice 10 soldiers to save 100. A Voran tactician would abandon 20 to preserve 80. Humans try to save everyone, even when logic says it is impossible, especially then. Braxis found himself genuinely curious now, the mockery completely purged. Does it work, that philosophy? Sometimes we save everyone. Sometimes we save no one. But we always try, always. And the galaxy learned at Haven's Gate that trying means something. Those pirates thought humans would calculate the odds and surrender. They learned too late that humans do not surrender our own. He moved toward the door, then paused. You have fought in 3 major campaigns, Commander. All victories, you said. How many soldiers did you lose in those campaigns? Braxix calculated quickly. Perhaps 200 across all 3 battles, acceptable casualties for the victories achieved. 200 soldiers, the same number we lost in 6 hours at Haven's Gate. And you know what the difference is? I can name every single one of ours. Every name, every face, every story. Can you name yours? The question struck like a physical blow. Braxis realized he could not. They were numbers in a report, acceptable losses in the pursuit of victory. That is the difference, the human said softly. To you they are casualties. To us they are people, friends, family. Every single one matters. Every single loss hurts. And that pain makes us fight harder to prevent the next one. Shala approached, her movements respectful. Would you be willing to speak with my tactical academy, share these lessons with the next generation of officers? The human considered. I do not give speeches, do not do interviews or publicity, but teaching, yes, I can do that. As long as you understand I will not glorify war, I will tell them the truth, the cost, the weight, The faces I see every night when I try to sleep. That is exactly what they need to hear, Shala replied. Theory is easy, reality is harder. They should learn from someone who paid the price for knowledge. Torvak stepped forward, offering his hand in the human gesture of respect he had learned decades ago. I fought beside humans once, in a minor skirmish on the frontier. Even then, I saw what you describe. They took injuries meant for me, for my soldiers, acted without hesitation to protect species they barely knew. The human shook his hand. We are all in this together, General. This galaxy is big enough and dangerous enough that we need each other. Humans learned that early, maybe because we almost destroyed ourselves before reaching the stars. We know what happens when we fight each other instead of working together. Braxis approached last. I would like to buy you dinner if you would accept. I wish to learn more about human military culture, not to mock, to understand. My unit may serve beside humans someday. I would prefer to know my allies before we face battle together. The human studied the massive Thurian commander for a long moment, then he nodded. Dinner sounds good, but I choose the place, somewhere quiet, and you listen to more stories, not just the victories, the failures too, the mistakes we made, the lessons that cost lives to learn. Agreed, Braxis said immediately. As they moved to a quieter table, other aliens approached. The young academy graduate asked permission to record the conversation for study. The bartender offered drinks on the house. A grizzled veteran from a species the human did not recognize simply clasped his shoulder in silent understanding, warrior to warrior. The human settled into his chair, surrounded now not by mockery but by genuine respect and interest. He raised his glass when Torvak proposed a toast. To the defenders of Haven's Gate, the old general announced. May we never forget their sacrifice. May we learn from their courage. And may we honor their memory by protecting those who cannot protect themselves. To Haven's Gate, the aliens echoed. The human drank with them, but his toast was quieter, private. To Rick, Lisa, Daniel, Paul, and all the others. You deserved better than this galaxy gave you. I'm still trying to make it worth what you paid. Outside the cantina, the station continued its endless orbit. Ships came and went. Species mixed and mingled. The galaxy turned, indifferent to the stories told in small bars on forgotten stations. But inside, something had changed. The aliens no longer saw humans as weak newcomers playing at war. They saw warriors who made weakness into strength through sheer determination. They saw a species that refused to abandon their own, no matter the cost. And they understood, finally, why humanity had earned its place among the stars not through might, but through an unbreakable will to protect what mattered most. The human finished his drink and began answering questions, sharing knowledge bought with blood and sacrifice. His voice was steady now, purposeful. If he could not save his friends, he could at least make sure their deaths taught something valuable. In the cold mathematics of war, Haven's Gate was a defeat. 200 soldiers lost, a colony abandoned, resources destroyed. But in the deeper calculus of what makes a species worthy of respect, it was humanity's greatest victory. The galaxy had learned that humans would burn themselves to ash to save others. And heaven help anyone who forced them to prove it again.